Think it's time we rise up, people. It's time's up, people. You can talk all you want, but it won't change a thing. I wanna know what you do.
This is America, and people are allowed to criticize their government. It's specifically delineated in the First
Right,
Amendment. So
right.
put your content on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, but also put it on public access. Because, and I hate to be ageist here, a little old lady is more likely to turn on channel 8 on her television
Hmm.
at 75 or 80 than she is to whip out her iPad. And don't leave those audience members in the dust, because they're valuable too. Every one of those 70-year-old ladies is maybe a city councilor's grandma
Hmm.
who can have some impact on whether or not public access is funded. Way back in the old days, people remember broadcast television had something called the Fairness Doctrine, and it allowed people to be heard, and those editorials were often run on Sunday mornings when nobody was watching. Overnight, Keene went from a place where no one could be heard if they didn't have their name on a building somewhere in town, or they didn't come over on the Mayflower. Regular people could suddenly be heard.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Up and Up with Jody Newell, and I am Jody Newell. I'm doing an interview today with Lee Perkins on the topic of the last remaining vestige of truly independent media, public access. Lee is the founder of Cheshire TV and served as executive director until just a couple of years ago. After fending off attempted takeovers from the city many times in his tenure, he's now working from afar to save it from the most recent attempt, which I am actually on the board of Cheshire TV, are attempting to fight off currently. With local news being gobbled up at an alarming rate and online platforms controlled by private companies, public access is truly the last hope of independent, truly free, and unencumbered media. Clearly, I think this is an extremely important topic. I'm hoping to open your eyes to it, other people, and so you can see what's happening locally and save public access wherever possible. So, without further ado, welcome to the show, Lee. I'm happy to have you.
I'm very, very happy to be here. This is a topic that I can talk about endlessly. I do not tire of it.
Don't I know it? And
I
it's good
raised
because
all
you've been able to educate me so much. That's why I want to be able to educate other people in the same way. So tell us a
I
little bit.
raised all three of my daughters were raised being told that the First Amendment was the most important one because they wrote it first.
Nice. Love it. So tell us a little bit about, I mean, you were actually the founder of Cheshire TV. So, I mean, tell us a little bit about what was that process like? Yeah.
Yeah, so way back in the 1998 or so, there was a franchise agreement being renegotiated with the cable company in Keene, and part of that was that the community wanted a public access operation. In a community like Keene, it's especially unusual because Keene doesn't have very much media. It is isolated from all of the other cities. The idea for somebody like me who came there from someone else, what I would describe to people who were like, what's Keene like? You know, I'm from Columbus, Ohio. So when I was new at Keene, people from back home would say, what's it like? And I would say, well, the news is from an hour and a half away. So I get to hear news stories about the robbery of a convenience store an hour and a half away. Not really something that you get excited about. Who cares? That burglar is all the way over in Manchester. So it was really, really strange to come into a community that had a single newspaper, and it had multiple radio stations all in one building. You know, it's the definition of a lack of competitive media, and historically, in all of the history of mankind, that does not go well for the public. A lack of competitive media never is good for people. So, when the city was ascertaining what they wanted from the cable company during that contract negotiation, they decided they wanted public access, and I participated in a lot of the discussions of what that would look like as a representative of the cable company. At the time, I actually worked in their high-speed data division for businesses. I was an account rep for high-speed data to businesses. And because I had a lifetime of production and television experience, I showed up to these meetings at the request of the local cable company manager because I was a representative of the cable company, but I could also provide production and technical knowledge. In a bizarre twist of fate, there was a shift of management of the market in Keene from Denver, Colorado to Portland, Maine. And my job got relocated to Portland. And since my wife had a better job, I decided to stay in Keene. And so I resigned from Time Warner because I didn't want to move to Portland. But the upshot of that was I was suddenly unemployed right around when they were looking for someone to build and launch this public access station.
Hmm.
So I went from having an ancillary interest to, I was basically being given the opportunity to design and build and launch and run this thing however I saw fit. I was able to to execute my own vision, and that was great because my vision was, I felt, what was best for the community, which was a completely inclusive, non-restrictive, pure public access. The idea of public access is it's supposed to give anyone the opportunity to be heard with no censorship of any kind. That's what everybody says, but then the tiny fine print is, oh sure, we'll put your controversial program on at 1 o'clock in the morning,
Hmm.
or yeah, we'll air your aggressive, hostile criticism of the local government once on Sunday morning at 5 a.m. That's literally what happens. Way back in the old days, people remember broadcast television had something called the Fairness Doctrine, and it allowed people to be heard, and those editorials were often run on Sunday mornings when nobody was watching. So I ran public access in Keene like a network affiliate that didn't have to worry about sponsors or a corporation. So um, it was really, really, really cool because overnight, Keene went from a place where no one could be heard if they didn't have their name on a building somewhere in town or they didn't come over on the Mayflower. The regular people could suddenly be heard. And as you can imagine, that was wildly popular with all the people, not at all popular with the people who have names on buildings. Within days of us launching, I had city councilors and the mayor coming to me and saying, "Get this guy off the air. Get this off the air. We don't want to. We don't want to be criticized." Well, of course you don't want to be criticized. Who does? But this is America, and people are allowed to criticize their government. It's specifically delineated in the First
Right.
Amendment. So,
Right.
um, and my approach was always, more speech, not less. More words, not fewer. If a person sees something on the channel they didn't like, my suggestion was make your own show or turn off the TV, not restrict what that guy is saying. And that was 10 years of my life. I mean, and that was not just a full-time job. I think, well, I didn't take a vacation for the first 7 years of that 10, and that was a 24/7, 7 day. That was every single day.
Mhm.
Every single day. Even if we were closed, I still ran the operation. I would routinely get phone calls at home at 9 o'clock at night from people who wanted to know why TBS didn't air Gilligan's Island anymore because people thought that Cheshire TV was like the focal point of cable in the Monadnock region. Um, so we shouldered a lot of responsibility that we didn't need to shoulder, but um, you you can't just ignore people. As
Right.
far as if you want people to turn on the television and put all their trust in your channel, then you have to take the bad with the good. You have to take the easy with the hard. So
Mhm.
that's what we did,
So
and no one liked it in the city.
right, right. And I mean, to that point, I know that you've had many times, like, of course, we want to talk today about what's happening currently, eventually, um, but what we're essentially talking about is the city making a play to take over operations. And so, curious, I know that you've talked about this happening before, that I haven't been there for, but could you explain to us kind of how they've come at it before? It seems like a perpetual battle.
Well, so from the very beginning, the city manager at that time, a guy by the name of John McLean, had come here from another community that had a robust and aggressive public access operation. He was part of that negotiating process, and one of the things that was a national joke, and I mean this in all sincerity, public access stations all around the country were amused by Keene and Cheshire TV because the city of Keene, in all of its desire to have public access, negotiated the lowest franchise rate in the history of public access, which goes back to the 1970s. The cap is 5% of the cable company's gross, and that's what almost everybody does. Once in a while, you'll find 4, rarely 3, 3.5. But the city of Keene shrewdly negotiated a 0.75% franchise fee, which right now it's 3.5, and that's about $15,000 a month. So if you figure that it's about $5,000 per percent, we were being told to build, launch, and run a public access station for under $5,000 a month. That's support. We were also required by the original contract to be housed in a Keene building so that they could have control as our landlord. There was a tremendous amount of work put into that contract by the city to do everything they could to guarantee we would not succeed. We succeeded spectacularly. We were nationally recognized as being one of the fastest growing public access stations in history. And that's particularly interesting because by this point in history, 2006, there weren't really any new public access stations. I mean, public access has been around since the 70s. And if there was cable in a town, it had public access. It's not something that it doesn't really get started very often. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it was new to Keene, but like Keene got Roadrunner internet when everybody else in the country had it for like 10 years. So things take a while to get to Keene. There are no standard definition channels on cable in Keene except for the public access. We're still standard definition. High definition's been around for 15 years. So that's what I'm getting at. It's weird. Keene is a weird town. But yeah, the city, each iteration of our contract with the city was more and more restrictive. We've spent in the neighborhood of $7,000 a year on auditing fees to an accountant because the city wants a level of auditing of our financial activities that no other vendor gets. You would think that we were handling $10 million a year of the city's money, when in reality, we're handling $200,000 a year of cable customer money. It's not even taxpayer money. It's money that's paid to the cable company by the subscriber. And then the cable company gives it to the city and the city gives it to the public access operation, but not before they take 10% off the top for themselves, like the mob. So again, support, here's your money. We took 10%. Again, that's, I don't mean to be glib, but after 15 years, it's ludicrous, that they will use the word support. We support public access, but their actions are the opposite of that. They've been trying to do away with this organization since the very first day we were on the air. And it started with a complaint about the kind of programming. I think what they expected was gardening and cooking shows, even though I told them there was going to be controversial programming. I made a lot of noise about that in the beginning. I said to the entire community, hey, listen, you're going to see people naked reading bad poetry. That's what public access is. I figured if people could live with that, they could live with anything. It turns out that there's no naked poetry reading. But when you say you don't like what the mayor is doing, that requires immediate response from the government. So it was really disappointing because we had city councilors producing programs on the air with the assistance of our staff while simultaneously telling us what other things shouldn't be on the air. So it was a very much okay for me, but not for thee kind of a scenario. And that's disappointing because, in a couple of cases, we've got counselors on council right now who are secretly trying to do away with public access in Keene, who had a show on for a decade that got reelected over and over again as a result of being on the air every single week, and they would really rather burn the entire thing to the ground to silence one or two voices. They would rather take it all away from everybody than ever hear that they aren't doing a good job. I really do believe that that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to roll the clock back. We heard comments back in the beginning when people would say, in a wistful manner, it used to be that nobody cared what we did at city council meetings. Now they can just turn on their TV and watch it from home and then walk up to us in the grocery store tomorrow and tell us they don't like what we said. I had counselors come to me and say, how can I fix it so that people don't see me saying stupid things on TV? There's literally only one answer to that, which is
Don't
stop
say
saying stupid things on TV. But yeah, they tried to get me to edit government meetings. They wanted to they wanted me to
Oh my
cut out the
goodness.
parts where they were stupid. So, you know, support.
Wow, wow, wow. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what's happening right now. I mean, I'm in it. I'm a part of this because I've recently been elected to the board. And we came to the table because we really wanted to try and save it from this happening. Yet it's happening anyway. So tell us a little bit about I would say kind of the tricks that they're using now.
Well, so the contract that we have with the city, basically they're authorizing us to operate the channel and provide these services in exchange for this money. On paper we're a vendor. Um, they have always wanted us to be sort of an extension. What they've always wanted is the ability to pick up the phone and call whoever's in charge and say, find a way to make this thing we don't like go away. In the beginning, they literally came to my office and said, I want this thing I don't like to go away. And I would
Mm.
say, tough, you know? And so what they're doing is they're essentially saying, we reserve the right to discontinue our relationship with you, and we're going to do that unless you give us complete control. And I'm not exaggerating. The letter they wrote says they want us to change the legal structure of a corporation to reflect that the only people who have any authority or control over the corporation are representatives of the city of Keene and Swansea, if Swansea wants to come in on it. So
Mhm.
right now we are an independent legal corporation. The state of New Hampshire recognizes Cheshire TV as a private, independent corporation. The city of Keene wants us to voluntarily surrender all of our legal rights in the state of New Hampshire to them. The ironic thing is that's not something that I can do or the board of directors.
Right.
The membership of Cheshire TV has all of the power. Cheshire TV was designed by me in the beginning to be a truly democratic organization. The membership, it's written in the bylaws, has all the power. The membership has the power to do anything they want. Literally, they can wind up and dissolve the corporation with a vote. The board can't stop them. The city can't stop them. The membership can do anything it wants. The city wants us to take that away. The members aren't going to go for that.
Mm.
So,
Why would
what's going to
they?
happen is at the end of the 120-day clock that the city has started, they will simply take control. It's basically similar to property. They say we want this piece of property to build a road. You say no, that's my property. They say we're just going to take that as eminent domain. You
Right.
know. However, they can't actually take ownership of Cheshire TV. Cheshire TV will have to continue to exist as a separate entity, but it won't have the channel or the money or any of the equipment because all of that will become the property of the city.
Wow.
Uh, and that's problematic because they don't have a solution on going forward. They don't have a plan. There will be no public access in Keene. Maybe not immediately, but right out of the gate. I mean, I don't know what their plan is, and they haven't told anyone. They've done everything in secret. The most interesting part of this whole story to me, which I can't even believe is legal, I'm astonished that this is happening. The situation has gotten so incredibly out of control that a former city councilor has been accused of trying to record a non-public council meeting and was forced to resign because of that. It turns out that gentleman was a former representative of the city on our board who resigned because the board did some egregious violation of the law and he resigned in protest. What do you think the topic of that non-public session was that he tried to record?
Cheshire TV.
Yes, the controlling of Cheshire TV by the city. So I believe what's happening, and of course nobody knows that because it was a non-public session.
Right.
Um, there's a sunshine law that requires them to publish those minutes, which they haven't done. We've filed for a formal request for those minutes. We've been ignored. At this point, all that's really left is to start asking questions like, you know, has the city of Keene violated the law? has the city of Keene violated federal law, which I believe they have. I know for a fact they violated state law. Everybody who's a member of Cheshire TV has the legal right, codified in New Hampshire law, to vote for the board members of the organization. That's just a fact. It's in our bylaws. It's state law, and the board of directors colluded a year ago to not do that.
Hmm.
Every single member of Cheshire TV's rights were violated. Nobody has done anything. The
Right.
city was fully aware. They chose not to do anything. So the current question is, what does a class action lawsuit against the city of Keene look like for 150 members of Cheshire TV whose rights were violated? Um, the city of Keene has a history of losing First Amendment cases at the Supreme Court. I believe the current count is 3-0
Hmm.
losses. Um, the city of Keene has a demonstrated history of violating the First Amendment rights of its citizens. Um, and I mean, like I said, I can talk about the specifics of Cheshire TV all day long, but what it comes down to is an organization that is protected by state law, that has a membership that follows the law, that is in good standing with the federal government and the state government, is protected by those laws. And the city of Keene is trying to strip these people of their rights by taking away their money. In other words, how does Cheshire TV protect itself when the bad guy in the scenario is where it gets its money? So
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that the next step in this saga is going to be Cheshire TV applying for an emergency injunction from a judge, stopping what they're doing, because we cannot get justice if we don't have the money to pursue justice.
Right.
The people who violated my rights and your rights are trying to protect themselves from being held to account by taking away our ability to get justice, our money.
Right. Right.
So it's pretty disgusting, and I think the worst part of it is that they're doing this in secret. You, I think, were part of a meeting recently where they made it very clear that they were not interested in hearing from the public on this,
Yeah.
which is hysterical because they are public employees and the money is from the public. So I'm not entirely sure that they're allowed to do this without hearing from the public.
I was gonna
So
say, I mean, yeah, it's very interesting because I especially like how egregious that they hold the purse strings, but the purse strings, it's not because the money is coming from the city. That's something I want to make very clear is that the
right,
money is coming from cable subscribers in the city.
right.
And if there's some dispute over whether Swansea's going to remain in it or not, or I guess they're out
Well, so
whether they want to
currently
come out, but it was coming from their cable subscribers as well. It's not coming.
yeah,
It's just the fact that the city has put themselves in the position of being a conduit of that money, of being, a middleman in that
yeah,
process,
yeah,
and they're taking out 10% from
yeah.
the money, mandating that we be in a city building, a city
Um,
facility, and paying
right,
rent. And
right,
that is deducted before the money even comes to Cheshire TV. Like
right.
they're clearly putting themselves in between,
Yeah.
in a making sure that they are the um, in between the middleman.
The letter that the city sent to us specifically said that one of the reasons they were taking this action was because the current executive director was hired as a result of the members taking control of the organization again. So the contract specifically says that the city is not to participate in the hiring and firing process and that
Right.
they have no say in who works for the organization.
Hmm.
But they have specifically said that one of the reasons for taking this action is because of who the employees are.
Hmm.
And I would like to point out, just for the record, that this person is highly qualified. He worked for me for years. The person that was doing it before was so unqualified that the state had dissolved the organization administratively. The insurance bills weren't being paid. $100,000 of Cheshire TD money just vanished in the space of 6 months. I mean, it's astonishing to me that none of that stuff mattered, except the minute that the membership got control. And further, in that meeting that you attended, my understanding is that the city manager disclosed that the city, I'm assuming when she says the city, she's referring to herself, had been working with the previous board,
Right.
which
Yes.
again that level of interference in a private corporation, that level of meddling. I mean, I struggle to understand the legality of a city government violating the law in order to have control over a nonprofit which is regulated by the federal government. Like I'm dying to find out what happened. I just want to say, City of Keene, meet the IRS. You
Mhm.
guys talk. Because
Talk amongst yourselves.
well, yeah, because I mean, I personally have I personally have a stack of documentation that illustrates with absolute certainty that the organization and the city, now that we know they were participating in these decisions, violated federal law.
Hmm.
I came to the organization back in September and I said, you are in danger of losing your IRS nonprofit status. You are in danger of losing your legal status with the state. And I was basically told to pound sand. Steve Hooper, who is an elected official, told the board of directors and the membership that there was absolutely no truth to anything I said.
Hmm.
100% of what I said is true and backed up with documentation. So, there is clearly collusion between the city government in the identity of the mayor and the city manager and some councilors and the former board of directors. I think it's time. I hate to sound dramatic, but I think it's time to start hauling these people into deposition. Get them under oath, answering questions, because when the stories start lining up,
Hmm.
when I mean, right now, if we were to pick up the phone and call the city manager and ask her questions, she would be under no obligation to answer them or answer them honestly.
Hmm.
But if you're in a deposition, you are compelled by the court to answer them honestly, or you're in contempt of court and you go to jail for that. These are city officials. These are public people who are civil servants. They are literally employees of the citizen, and they are lying. They are breaking the law. They are conducting illegal activities in secret meetings. And in a town like Keene, that kind of thing happens all the time. But now that we know that the city has been working in conjunction with board members who were removed for egregious violations of the law,
Hmm.
uh, I mean, like I said, I think that this is a battle worth fighting.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that the fact that an organization that has been doing spectacularly well for 15 years to suddenly have someone just tearing it down with no warning and no, I mean, every single resident of Keene is about to lose an incredibly valuable resource. It is incalculable, the dollar value that Cheshire TV has provided to nonprofits in the community for the
Yeah.
past 15 years.
Yeah.
I mean, we have helped raise millions of dollars for nonprofits. We have provided millions of dollars in marketing and exposure at no cost to the community whatsoever. Every subscriber pays a dime, and all those dimes piled up together is beneficial to everyone. I think that we did a study once and we found that for every penny we got, the community got back over $5 in value.
Oh,
That
wow.
is that is a truly absurd return
Right.
that you don't see anywhere else because
Yeah.
no one is making money off of this. My goal, every dollar I got, was to give that dollar back to the community as fast and as hard as I could. And when you have hundreds of volunteers and a handful of paid staff, and their every moment is dedicated towards doing that, that's what you end up with, is an award-winning public access station that is a model for other public access operations throughout the country. And why would anyone want to mess with that?
Yeah. Well,
Like,
we need to wrap it up real quick, but I just want to kind of
oh,
I just have about a minute left, and so I just wanted to
okay.
make sure that we leave enough time for you to kind of give your advice to other people who might be watching this. We have active people watching this who want to get involved when we put out the message. So, what could people do? What kind of steps could people take to get involved in their own community and see whether what's needed in their community to maintain public access?
Well, so the very first thing is if you already have it, utilize it. The fact that you carry a high definition camera in your pocket doesn't make public access relevant. YouTube is great, social media is great, but for for everybody who says that cable is dead, the cable companies are still raking in record profits.
Hmm.
They are not irrelevant. There are lots of people who still watch public access. They watch it because it's hyper local. And by all means, put your content on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, but also put it on public access. Because, and I hate to be ageist here, a little old lady is more likely to turn on channel 8 on her television
Hmm.
at 75 or 80 than she is to whip out her iPad. And don't leave those audience members in the dust, because they're valuable too. Every one of those 70-year-old ladies is maybe a city councilor's grandma
Hmm.
who can have some impact on whether or not public access is funded. So uh, there's no reason for it to go away. And if you don't, this is really one of those, you got to use it and you got to fight for it, because everybody is dying to say it doesn't matter. So let's just get rid of it and keep the money.
Right. Right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate everything that you do. I mean, from the founding to how you're helping us really navigate the waters now to try and keep Cheshire TV independent. And anybody else out there watching, please get involved. It truly is very important. I hope that we've demonstrated that to you now. But I think really what it takes is just getting it on people's radar, because it's just something that kind of flies below and people don't know. I think we know how important it is. It's just a matter of reminding people. So thank you for coming on, and thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. It really helps. And also, if you have the means, please donate at Real Progressives oh my goodness, at Patreon /Real Progressives. Thanks for watching, y'all. Have a good day.